Every time you ride a new roller coaster, you go into the ride with some sort of expectation. Sometimes you expect the ride to be awesome, and get on the ride expecting a great experience. Other times, you board the ride with much lower expectations, and you just know you're going to have a terrible ride, and you question yourself why you're even getting on this ride in the first place. More often than not, roller coasters live up to the expectations that we have for them. When you get on Fury 325 for the first time, you board it knowing that you're going to have a great time. When you climb on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, you know that you're going to enjoy a highly themed experience, even if the ride itself is really nothing spectacular. And when you, for some unknown reason, think it's a good idea to get on a Vekoma SLC, you know that you're going to be taking ibuprofen the next day. While most coasters live up to the expectations we have for them, there are rare occasions when a coaster totally defies the expectations that you had for it in your mind. Sometimes the ride is better than you expected, sometimes it's much worse, and sometimes the overall experience is completely different than what you expected. In this video, we're going to take a look at 5 coasters that totally shattered the expectations that I had for them. In the number 5 spot, we have Exterminator at Kennywood. I have ridden many Wild Mouse coasters over the years, and honestly, they're all pretty much the same. They're all fun enough, but they're never anything that leaves a lasting impression on me. When I rode Exterminator for the first time, I wasn't expecting much more than an indoor Wild Mouse, but I ended up having a blast on this coaster, and after getting off it for the first time, I immediately got in line for a second ride. Exterminator improves upon the traditional Wild Mouse experience by adding fun theming, just the right amount of spinning, and just the right amount of lighting and strobe effects to make the ride very unpredictable. I can't put my finger on exactly why I love Exterminator so much, but I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. Coming in at number 4 is Thunderation at Silver Dollar City. If you count the Adventure Express marathons I did as a kid, I probably have taken more laps on Aero Mine Trains than I have any other model of coaster. When I boarded Thunderation for the first time, I was expecting to get nothing more than additional credit out of the ride, but boy was I wrong. Thunderation is by far the most intense Aero Mine Train that I have ever ridden, and honestly, I had no idea that this model of coaster could pick up so much speed. Thunderation roars through its course, and it blew away every expectation that I had for it. Even if you're not a huge fan of Aero Mine Trains, you owe it to yourself to get to Silver Dollar City and ride Thunderation. It gave me the most memorable ride I've had on a mine train in years. The number 3 spot on this list is occupied by the Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Florida. When you think about the coasters at Universal, the first rides that come to mind are Rip Ride Rocket, The Incredible Hulk, and, of course, Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. Nobody even thinks about Revenge of the Mummy. When I first rode Revenge of the Mummy, I didn't expect much out of it. I figured it would be an indoor coaster with an Egyptian-themed queue line, and that's really about it. What I did not expect to find was a fun ride that is as much dark ride as it is roller coaster. It has detailed animatronics, impressive special effects, and an immersive story. I simply don't understand why this coaster doesn't get more attention from the community, as it's easily one of the most themed roller coasters in the world. It was one of my favorite rides at Universal Studios Florida, and I can't wait to return to this park so I can ride it again someday. In the number 2 spot, we have Renegade at Valleyfair. Ah, Valleyfair, the park that its owners, and the entire roller coaster community as a whole, have simply forgotten about. When I visited Valleyfair in 2019, I expected the star attraction to be Wild Thing, and Excalibur was the ride that I was most excited about. Renegade wasn't even on my radar. I don't know why it hadn't caught my attention, as I've loved every GCI that I've ridden, but for some reason, even High Roller was more interesting to me. When I finally rode Renegade, I was blown away by how good this ride is. It was smooth, it was forceful, and it was full of great airtime. If Renegade was at Cedar Point, or any other major park for that matter, the coaster community would never stop talking about this ride and singing its praises. Because of its location, Renegade has fallen through the cracks, and no one really thinks about it. But once Valleyfair reopens, you really should make the effort to get out to this park to experience Renegade for yourself. Okay, you've made it through my list. It's time to find out what my number 1 expectation-shattering coaster is. Proudly occupying the number 1 spot on my list is, drumroll please, T3 at Kentucky Kingdom. I know, I said all SLCs suck, and don't get me wrong, they do. But there is no SLC that receives as much hate online as T3 does. When I rode T3 for the first time, I expected the worst. I'd been told that I would receive a concussion, or that my legs would feel like they're being cut off. The coaster community had made me think that I would be wishing for death by the time I got off the ride. When I boarded T3, I asked myself, do I really want this credit that badly? When I got off the ride, I was speechless. I simply didn't know how to process what had just happened. T3 was actually decent. Don't get me wrong, T3 is not a great ride, but my ride is actually kind of fun, and it wasn't painful or miserable in any way. I simply don't understand why this coaster gets so much hate. I enjoyed it, and it was nowhere near the worst roller coaster I've ever ridden. I'm looking at you, Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Over Georgia. I guess T3 is simply a great example of why you should go into every coaster with an open mind. Sometimes your expectations will be met, but every now and then they'll be shattered. Have you ever ridden a roller coaster that defied all of your expectations? If you have, I would love to hear about it in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button for more content from Coaster Center. Until next time, ride on, coaster fans.